The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these things simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
These are TV channels from all across the US reading the same script. It's chilling no matter how many times you watch it. See, the idea that America has a free press is an illusion.
The CIA figured out the easiest way to control a country was by headlines.
From Operation Mockingbird, when the CIA recruited American journalists to push out government propaganda, to the Pentagon's relationship with Hollywood, influencing productions like Iron Man, Top Gun, and Transformers, to make sure that their scripts follow a pro-America narrative. But there is one moment that fundamentally changed the media landscape in the United States. After intense lobbying from telecom and media corporations, President Bill Clinton signed into law the Telecommunications Act, deregulating media ownership in the country and unleashing the biggest consolidation of media power in American history. Media giants started swallowing up the rest, and the monopolies we see today were born. Thus the term corporate media.
CBS, NBC, ABC, or the major newspapers in America are owned by big money, and the concentration of that ownership is becoming significantly more severe.
The mainstream media isn't owned by the people. It's owned by rich people, and rich people tell them what to say.
Debates like that are not permitted in American media. Both political parties and their donors have reached consensus on what benefits them, and they actively collude to shut down any conversation about it.
The corporate media is there to further the agenda of the establishment, of the oligarchs, because they own it.
What they're saying is they don't want to relinquish control of what the news is and what information is.
I'm not going to start with who runs these monopolies, companies, or the logos just yet. I want to start with the one thing that they didn't control and how far they were willing to go to change that.
TikTok is a grave national security threat to Americans.
TikTok is just Chinese malware. It's just junk food for our brains.
It is spyware. It is being weaponized.
TikTok is a gun aimed at Americans' heads.
Something felt off. Democrats and Republicans were suddenly unified in an anti-TikTok crusade, drumming up fear to push for a nationwide ban on the app. But when you actually examine the evidence, even the CIA acknowledged that there was no proof the Chinese government accessed the data or was using it in any nefarious way. So what was this really about? Control. One of the biggest social media apps in the world and its algorithm were not being run out of Silicon Valley. They were being run out of a foreign country, and the impact was terrifying.
TikTok is massively popular. It has more than 1 billion users worldwide and 170 million monthly active users in the US, with fully a third of US adults and a majority of those under 30 using it. Nearly 40% of adults under 30 say they regularly get their news from TikTok, all of which makes it pretty remarkable that it may be on the brink of going away.
Young Americans were getting their news, culture, and political information from a platform that was under no American leverage, and that reality became impossible to ignore as Israel committed genocide in Palestine. In corporate media, one narrative seemed to dominate.
Babies, their heads cut off. That's what they said.
Spokesman just confirmed babies and toddlers were found with their heads decapitated.
And on TikTok and social media, a different reality emerged.
Are you in the IDF?
Yes.
Do you plan on kids in the future, Palestinian kids?
I want to Gaza. I don't care about the kids. I don't care about the civilians. I don't care about them.
So you'll bomb them? You'll bomb the civilians? And
yes, I will Gaza.
America ain't no benevolent country. Israel was a strategic military base for us, a way to control at least 2 major resources in the region.
I think I just figured out why the US, UK, and France are so adamantly pro-Israel right now.
Bitch, are y'all crazy? What happened to boycotting McDonald's? Y'all forgot? I didn't fucking forget. What's going on?
And that's when the establishment started saying the quiet part out loud.
We need to talk about TikTok. TikTok, if you will, it is the 24/7 news channel of so many of our young people, amplifying and intensifying the anti-Semitism and the anti-Zionism with no repercussions.
Smart, well-educated young people from our own country, from around the world, where were they getting their information? They were getting their information from social media, particularly TikTok. That's a serious problem. It's a serious problem for democracy, whether it's Israel or the United States, and it's a serious problem for our young people.
TikTok or other entities of that nature. If you look at the postings on TikTok and the number of mentions of Palestinians relative to other social media sites, it's overwhelmingly so among TikTok broadcasts. So I'd note that's of real interest, and the president will get the chance to make action in that regard.
So TikTok was given an ultimatum: ban or sell.
You and the president will be signing the official deal later this week at some point. Under the terms of this deal, TikTok will be owned by a majority of American investors and controlled by a board of directors with extensive national security and cybersecurity credentials. In partnership with the U.S. government, Oracle will serve as TikTok's trusted security provider. And the algorithm, I know this is a question many of you have had, will be secured, retrained, and operated in the United States.
And someone particular was quite enthusiastic about the sale. Check this out.
Fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are in social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is TikTok, #1.
The anti-TikTok crusade worked. TikTok was brought to heel. It was absorbed into a system of corporate profit, institutional leverage, and narrative discipline. They now own the algorithm. This brings us to the buyer of TikTok, and the first of the big four who monopolize modern media and tech, Larry Ellison. Episodes like this are possible because of our Patreon supporters. Doing this work takes time, resources, and editorial independence, and we're only able to do that thanks to our community. So if you believe in what we're doing and want to be part of this with us, consider joining our Patreon. It's how we keep this going. Paramount Skydance Corporation is owned by Larry Ellison and his son David. It is a media empire. They include CBS, all its affiliates and their locally owned stations, MTV, VH1, BET, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, Paramount Pictures, Showtime, Paramount Plus, and so much more. From major news broadcasters and programs like 60 Minutes and Face the Nation, to movie franchises like Top Gun, Mission Impossible, Transformers, Terminator, and Star Trek. The Ellisons are now in a bidding war against Netflix for one of the other big four, Warner Brothers. If they acquire them, they will become one of the biggest media conglomerates in the world. That's some scary stuff. So who is Larry Ellison? He is a centibillionaire, and at one point he was the richest man on earth. He founded Oracle, that had its origins through his work with the CIA. Oracle now works across the US government, with US intelligence agencies, national security agencies, and the Pentagon. Beyond that, he's a big donor in American politics. He's funded Democrats and Republicans and is a big supporter of President Donald Trump. But it doesn't stop there. Larry Ellison is also the biggest private donor to the Israeli military.
The renewal of the Jewish state is something that I think touches all of us. For 2,000 years, we were a stateless people. And now we have a country of our own, defended by all the brave men and women of the IDF.
He is a personal friend of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Ellison offered Netanyahu a board seat at Oracle in 2021 and had the Prime Minister and his family vacation on Ellison's private island in Hawaii. So yes, the man at the center of the TikTok deal sits atop a rapidly expanding media empire and is positioning himself to become the most powerful media mogul in the world. And he's already begun mobilizing his media assets to further his political agenda, like appointing the infamous Barry Weiss as the editor-in-chief of CBS. This is how media ownership works in manufacturing consent. It's how wealth, infrastructure, political access, and media power converge in a single individual. And Larry Ellison is only one part of the system. To understand how deep this consolidation goes, we need to look at the rest of the Big Four. Disney is one of the most iconic brands in the world. It's where imagination comes alive. I even grew up watching Disney movies in Palestine. But don't let that warm, fuzzy brand fool you. Disney controls one of the largest media ecosystems on Earth. It is a cold-cut business with a revenue of over $94 billion in 2025. Disney owns ABC News, ESPN, Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, FX, National Geographic, Hulu, 20th Century Studios, Searchlight Pictures, Disney Plus, and dozens of international networks spanning news, sports, film, television, and streaming worldwide. But who owns Disney? Well, it's a publicly traded company. The three largest shareholders are Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. Disney is primarily owned by institutional capital that also happens to invest in arms and defense companies closely aligned to the US military. Also invest in Israeli weapons and military companies like Elbit Systems and Rada Electronic Industries. Both have been found complicit in Israeli crimes against Palestinians. These institutional investors also invest in the other Big Four and wield tremendous influence on them. The system is incentivized to maximize profit by avoiding controversy that could scare the markets, maintain political and regulatory stability, and protect relationships with advertisers and governments. So Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street don't control Disney's content directly. They control incentives, and incentives shapes behavior. And to make profit, you have to toe the line. That's how corporate media works.
And so, we are all connected in the great circle of life.
But it doesn't end here for Disney. Bob Iger has been the longtime CEO and face of the company. He's always been very careful to navigate politics that might affect profit, and has even registered as an independent. But for some reason, that didn't matter when he directed Disney to donate $2 million to Israel after October 7th. So apparently that was acceptable and didn't cross the corporate media line. Comcast is the largest media and telecom company in America. It owns NBC, MSNBC, CNBC, Universal Pictures, Peacock, Telemundo, Sky News, and one of the largest sports and entertainment portfolios in the world. Similar to Disney, the majority of shares are held by the same institutional investors. The company is run by Brian Roberts, the son of the founder Ralph Roberts. And Brian also donated $2 million to Israel after October 7th. Comcast is a great example of what happens when media steps outside of approved narratives. Over time, newsrooms learn which stories create problems and which don't.
Don't run, Hillary. Don't run.
But afterwards, the Clinton people called and complained to the MSNBC top brass and threatened not to provide any access during the upcoming campaign.
I was called in by my boss who said, that was fine, but anything else that you do on Hillary Clinton needs to be submitted to the president of the network.
Comcast owns some of the largest news outlets in America, including MSNBC, which is considered to be quite liberal. In the last 2 years, both Mehdi Hassan and Ayman Muhyiddin lost their highly popular flagship shows on MSNBC. The cancellations were explained as schedule changes, programming realignment, and a shift towards panel-based formats. But in reality, Mahdi and Ayman were the leading anchors on US primetime TV that were bringing on Palestinian voices during the Israeli genocide in Gaza.
Tuesday, Israel's Channel 12 released a leaked surveillance video that appeared to show Israeli soldiers allegedly sexually assaulting a Palestinian prisoner at a detention camp outside of Gaza.
Details an Israeli defense company using actual footage of their drones striking in Gaza in their promotional video. A strike that may have, as global arms trade expert Andrew Feinstein told him, turned out to have killed civilians, including kids.
Palestine is the red line. It's enough to get your show cancelled because it's not part of the establishment's approved narrative. We've seen this happen time and time and time again in American media. Why? Because MSNBC is not an independent media outlet. It's part of a big corporate conglomerate. Its liberalism is just a facade to give the viewer an illusion of choice. And at the end of the day, it's just part of the model for manufacturing consent.
To eliminate confusion, all of this has nothing to do with liberal or conservative bias. According to the propaganda model, both liberal and conservative wings of the media, whatever those terms are supposed to mean, fall within the same framework of assumptions. In fact, if the system functions well, it ought to have a liberal bias, or at least appear to, because if it appears to have a liberal bias, that will serve to bound thought even more effectively. In other words, if the press is indeed adversarial and liberal and all these bad things, then how can I go beyond it? They're already so extreme in their opposition to power that to go beyond it would be to take off from the planet. So therefore, it must be that the presuppositions that are accepted in the liberal media are sacrosanct, can't go beyond them.
Comcast is a massive corporation with government contracts, regulatory exposure, and advertiser dependence. Dissenting voices means risk and liability. This is the system. It's not just about MSNBC or Comcast, but all of corporate media. The last of the big four is no little guy. Warner Brothers Discovery is massive. They own CNN, HBO, Warner Brothers Pictures, DC, Rocksteady Studios, Discovery, TNT, TBS, Cartoon Network, the Travel Channel, and Max, spanning global news, premium television, film, sports, and streaming. And this is their CEO.
How lucky we are to have Israel and what it took, and the strength of the Haganah and the Irgun and the heart of the Israeli people to fight for a free democracy. And you know what that means, and what that means to all of us as Jews, that Israel continue to prosper for my children, for my grandchildren, but also as kind of a shining light of democracy.
Warner Brothers and its flagship asset, CNN, are a great example of corporate media's connection to the establishment, especially the intelligence, foreign policy, and warmongering elite.
Moment to finish off the Iranian nuclear weapons program, which I think we have the capacity to do.
CNN presents itself as independent, authoritative, and objective. But like most corporate newsrooms, it doesn't primarily rely on independent investigation. It relies on sources, and that is important to understand. Most of CNN's breaking news comes from a very familiar set of institutions. The White House, the Pentagon, the State Department, intelligence officials, police departments, and corporate spokespeople. These sources are always available, always quotable, and always framed as credible. The access is the currency. Similarly, during Israel's genocide in Gaza, CNN relied on its access to the Israeli military and government to shape the narrative.
We have some really disturbing new information out of Israel. The Israeli Prime Minister's spokesman just confirmed babies and toddlers were found with their heads decapitated.
All of which came from the very top. When your news operation depends on powerful institutions for a steady flow of information, the perspective of those institutions becomes the default reality. Dissent with the approved narrative cuts off access to the establishment. And that is how consent is manufactured in favor of the establishment.
You having a global media enterprise, I mean, have you shaped that agenda at all in terms of perceptions of the war, in terms of how the war is viewed,
Well, we basically supported papers, and I would say supported the Bush policy in the Middle East.
While not part of the Big Four, the Murdochs deserve a honorable mention. With their vast media empire spanning the US, UK, and Australia, the Murdochs are notorious for their scandals, their biased news coverage, and the use of their media empire to further their political agenda.
The Murdochs made those decisions, but it's just a fact that they did do that, and they overruled their people on questions of war.
They are the quintessential example of manufacturing consent during times of war, like the war in Iraq, the genocide in Gaza, and the bombing of Iran. Why? Because it's good for business.
Maybe your viewers don't fully understand or appreciate how profitable it is for these networks during war. So if you look at the numbers from like Q1 of 2002, before we went into Iraq, the numbers for revenue for Fox in that following quarter, when the war started in March, the numbers went up 150%.
No way.
150%. So war is incredibly profitable. I mean, CNN was built on it, right? I mean, CNN's...
Of course, it literally started or was brought to public attention during the war that your brother served in 1990.
There's one more thing that connects the Big Four that we haven't discussed, and it's ideology. A shared worldview that defines what sounds reasonable and what sounds extreme. During the Cold War, it was anti-communism. Today, it's national security, terrorism, and, as we saw glaringly across this video, it's Zionism. Whether it's institutional investors or the four leading figures of the Big Four plus Murdoch, they are all openly Zionist and have given some form of support to Israel and have mobilized their media assets in that direction. As we've proved, this is just a fact. Zionism is a political ideology that is embedded within the American propaganda model and its financial incentives. The big tech companies also operate across the same landscape of US leverage, control, propaganda, and financial incentives.
Tech titans that control nearly all aspects of our digital lives in some way or another. And it might look like a lot of pomp and circumstance, but the power dynamics at play here are going to be some of the most consequential of our time, even if we don't see them on camera.
It is no coincidence that many of these platforms also silenced Palestinians and others who spoke up during the genocide in Gaza. At the beginning of this video, I told you that 4 companies reach nearly every single household in the United States. And alongside big tech, they shape the information consumed by the majority of the world. This isn't just a media statistic. This is a description of power. For the first time in human history, storytelling, news, entertainment, technology, and distribution are concentrated in the hands of a few corporations, tied to the same financial institutions, the same governments, and the same ideology. This is what modern empire looks like. See, TikTok was never the threat. The threat was that, for a moment, millions of people were seeing a different reality at the same time, outside the system, and that couldn't be allowed to last. Because when a handful of corporations get to decide what the world sees, they don't just shape opinions, they shape history. And the question now isn't whether the system exists, it's whether people are willing to see it and do something about it.